This is Why Am I a Mets Fan? A podcast hosted by Samantha Croston and Ashley Wenskoski.
Welcome into another episode of the Why Am I a Mets Fan podcast. That's Ashley Wenskoski. I'm Samantha Croston, and we are sports reporters in Syracuse who have a Mets podcast that has really turned into a full-blown baseball podcast. We are talking about the hot stove, which I feel like we've been doing for a few weeks now, but there continue to be things to talk about, so here we are. Hi, Ashley.
Hi. Sorry, I got excited. The hot stove hasn't really been hot. The hot stove to me still is like kind of lukewarm. It's a warm stove. It's a lukewarm.
Who wants that?
It's a microwave. It's actually not even a stove. You know.
Yes, I did because honestly, like you're waiting for that one.
I'm waiting
boiling
for the big one.
Piece.
But there's some other big ones, right? There's some starting pitching big ones. We're getting all the little. We're not having the heavy hitters yet. We're getting the small little guys.
Yes, I totally agree. And here's where we're going to begin today with one of the more recent things that the Mets signed Frankie Montas. On Sunday night, it was reported that the Mets and the right-handed pitcher were in agreement on a 2-year, $34 million deal. Player opt out after 1 year, and he is 31 years old, so he'll be joining Senga and David Peterson and others who we don't yet know about.
Yes. Another interesting kind of David Stearns off the scrap heap signing. Another guy that, Stearns is looking for. I guess Stearns is looking to see how much he can get out of him. He's looking to get the best caliber Frankie Montas. He's looking for what he had in 2021. He's at Montas, who was at his best in 2021, is a strikeout artist who finished 6th in AL Cy Young voting in 21, had a combined 4.84 ERA over 30 starts with the Reds and the Brewers. This past season, he overcame a pretty big injury a couple years ago, arthroscopic shoulder surgery, and he only threw about an inning in 2023. That was for the Yankees. So kind of took 2023 off. Kind of was overcoming that.
Yeah.
And then when the Reds eventually traded him to Milwaukee, like I said, he had a 4.84 ERA, a bunch of strikeouts. So David Stearns sees to like these projects, these fixer-uppers.
What do me and David Stearns have in common?
Let me think about this one. Well, you don't like fixer-uppers, so that's not where I was going to go with that.
We both love a good deal.
Oh, you both love a good deal. That's good. For cheap. David Stearns right now is at TJ Maxx and Marshalls. You know what I mean? Like
Me? Frequent flyer at Marshalls.
Me as well.
Because why would you ever buy something for full price if you can get the exact same quality, but it's less money?
Right, exactly.
I'm a broke bee. I got to go out and see what I can find.
I respect it.
But I also respect the way that he essentially tries to play chess here. He is definitely somebody who likes to look for players for cheap. And yes, that did work well last season.
Right.
But I do have my questions about, is that always going to work? I mean, mind you, every time I've gone into Marshalls and I got something that was cheap, it's looked great, it's felt great, but there are times where a button does fall off or something is broken.
It's still the brand you wanted, but it's maybe not,
it's ripped.
Right. It's like, there's something wrong with it, or else it wouldn't be at the Marshalls.
Or else it wouldn't be at Marshalls.
It's out of season, it's a couple years old,
It's always a risk, but the question is it a risk worth taking?
I understand.
All I know is Stearns so far has done a good job at figuring out which pieces to get off the rack.
He has. We saw it with MANAEA and Severino last year, right? Those are two guys he signed for relatively cheap, and then they had bounce-back seasons of a lifetime. I mean, Sean MANAEA is out here turning around his entire career late. So I think he's very clearly trying to replicate that with Montas. Will it work? I don't know. I have reservations, honestly. I don't think he's a bad depth piece. I don't think he's a bad, third, fourth starter, but I certainly will feel a little bit more comfortable with this signing when I see them, sign another ace caliber guy, when I see them re-sign MANAEA or add on at least a couple more of these starting pitching pieces, because right now Frankie Montas, Kodai Senga, and David Peterson do not exactly establish images of grandeur. You know what I mean?
No, right. by no means. Mind you, I see you have some other things here that I like and want to point out.
Sure.
You say he's known for a particularly devastating splitter. Also, what a great adjective, because how devastating that must be when the ball just sinks to the ground and you swing at it.
Air, sure.
Devastating.
Yeah.
Opponents only hit .218 against it last season, while whiffing in 42.6% of swings. That's not bad.
Yeah.
He also rode that pitch to plenty of success with the A's for 5.5 seasons, and then he totaled a 3.7 ERA. He was actually sent to the Bronx for a stint.
That was
Never
the
healthy.
one inning, right?
Okay,
in
that was the whole
2023.
1 inning situation.
One
Got
inning
it.
with the Yanks.
Yeah, that's not a great reward.
No.
That's a return right there.
Right.
But it definitely is interesting when you think about, listen, this guy who is seasoned, he's been to a couple different places,
Yeah.
and he's had varying levels of success. So I consider him one of those risk pieces. But then again, couldn't the same be true about maybe a guy like MANAEA, and look at the return that had?
I would also say low risk, low reward. I guess a 2-year deal with a player opt out after 1 year is low risk, but $34 million. I mean, the guy's making $17 million a year. That's
Right.
not exactly low risk. That's
Yeah.
not exactly scrap heap, and it's not exactly cheap. So I don't know. Interesting. I think I'll grow into this one as I see him kind of build the rotation around it. Stearns did say at the GM meetings, quote, "I think the way we built our rotation last offseason was successful. I think we are seeking to build another successful rotation, however it occurs, and you can do that in a variety of ways. I don't feel beholden to do it in any particular way." So he's kind of like dispelling that notion that he's looking for, the guys trying to resurrect their career off the scrap pile.
But that's nice to hear.
Right.
That's actually a sentence that makes me feel good.
Yeah.
Because this isn't a guy who is committed and dedicated to doing things a certain way just because it worked well once.
Right.
He's open to different ways to build a lineup, and I appreciate that. I respect that.
Yeah, I don't think I don't think David Stearns is a dumb guy. I think he knows that that's not always going to work. But a guy who was in Milwaukee, worth pointing out, Stearns was in Milwaukee previously. I think he trusts the Milwaukee organization and what they think of these guys. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. And then you might ask yourself the question, well, how does this affect if we're going to sign MANAEA or Severino?
Yep. And how does it?
Joel Sherman of the New York Post, recent enemy, the New York Post, reports that a plugged-in agent tells him...
You gonna explain why that's a recent enemy or
will.
no?
Maybe.
'Kay.
That a plugged-in agent tells him that the Mets are not playing at the top of the starting pitching market for guys like Max Fried and Corbin Burns. And then a scout kind of followed up on that and said, even if Montas works out, I'd say they need 2 more quality starters given their expectations for next season, which I would agree with, that they need 2 more quality starters. Haven't seen a lot of the prospects, right? Brandon Sproat, some of those guys kind of stalled in AAA. Christian Scott's getting Tommy John next year. You're not really seeing that depth with the starters. So definitely need a few more. I don't think I'm really surprised to hear that the Mets are not at the top of the starting pitching market for guys like Fried and Corbin Burns, but I don't love it. Listen, I don't need Corbin Burns and I don't really need Max Fried, but I do need one of, if not both of, MANAEA or Severino back.
Like that right now, without having that, I'm feeling tired.
Right.
Having that, wired. Like
Right.
I need something to really kind of get the juices flowing, make me feel really excited about what's to come. It's exactly what you said. Like if those are the 3 who are locked in, it's like okay, but it just feels like it's not a show I'd pay for. Where's the headliner?
Right. It's like the music festivals when you have the paper and it's like there is not a headliner there. It's a bunch of
exactly what I was thinking.
B-level acts.
And I'm not going to go sit in a crowd of thousands of people unless there's somebody worth seeing.
A headliner.
Yeah. You know who the Post is right now? An old friend.
Old friend, the New York Post. If you know, you know.
Just made me think about that. Anyway, there are some other Mets rumors as well, which honestly, I'm just going to say this off the top. Sometimes, like, do you report on a rumor?
Sometimes rumors really are rumors.
We are journalists, so I just feel like it's a podcast, so it is a little bit more comfortable and we're able to talk about some things that we've heard, but like please know that we do understand this, and if something is branded as a rumor, it means that it's not from somebody who we 100% trust yet, but it's things that we've heard and we're interested in at least shelling out our opinions about them.
The New York Post loves a good rumor. I'm done now. Sorry.
Are you either got to explain it or what you gonna do?
I'm leaving it. I'm leaving it right now. Maybe at a later date.
Got it. Mike Puma from the New York Post, and this is according to sources.
Sources say
that the Mets have shown interest in free agent reliever Mike, is it Soroka?
I believe so.
Soroka. Check me on that if I'm wrong. Roast me. The 27-year-old had a 2.75 ERA and 60 strikeouts in 36 innings as a reliever in 2024. He was most recently on the Braves. The other thing that is worth pointing out, this is via Joel Sherman, also the Post, is that Mets reportedly have interest in Walker Buehler. My Dodgers fans, longtime lovers of this podcast, have you heard that at all? What do you think about that? I mean, that is hot stove.
I'm not gonna lie, my opinion on this is tired Walker Buehler, wired this Mike Soroka guy.
Really?
Give me Mike Soroka. I mean, a 2.75 ERA, 60 strikeouts in 36 innings as a reliever, and we're gonna poach him from the Braves. Sign me right up.
The Braves thing, that's got to feel good.
Yeah.
But also, I feel like taking anything away from the Dodgers, like, no offense, I love you guys as fans, but you know what I mean? As you continue to see the Dodgers having some really nice
we'll get
signings
into it.
and having some big boy moves already, I feel like anytime that you can swipe away a piece from the Dodgers, to me, that feels thrilling.
Yeah, I agree. Walker Buehler, certainly had his struggles in 2024. Allegedly, the market for him is deep, which I think kind of speaks to the starting pitching market as a whole. He posted a 5.38 ERA. I mean, it wasn't pretty, but then he really did put it together and flash some ace potential in the playoffs when it mattered the most. We saw it against the Mets in the NLCS. We saw it in the World Series against the Yankees. So, I don't know.
If the market for him is deep, then I also think that it potentially speaks to how much other teams and scouts value a pitcher who does well in the playoffs.
True.
Like, honestly, if you can, it's funny because you're right. I think this is something people don't think about enough. Like, it really is a much smaller sample size, but the pressure is so much higher.
Yeah.
So in a way, maybe those balance each other out. I don't know.
Yeah. Another interesting rumor. This one's really a rumor. Like on the rumor meter, this is a red top of the line rumor, not confirmed.
Okay.
Mark C. Healy, he's a writer, he's a newspaper editor-in-chief out on, I believe, Long Island somewhere, and a SiriusXM host. He tweeted today.
He's just like a dude on Long Island in his basement, like,
I don't know,
writing
he's
stuff.
on Long Island, I'm not really sure. Guy's editor-in-chief of a newspaper. He said, quote, "I heard two things Mets fans are not going to like. I just want to say they are from sources outside the Mets. The first is Jesse Winker may be close to signing with the Reds, and Scott Boras is telling teams that Pete is prepared to leave New York."
Wah, wah, wah.
Listen, big time rumor, but I could believe both of those. Those are rumors that I could really be talked into believing. I think that Jesse Winker, I mean, he was on the Reds previously. I think the market's going to be high for Jesse Winker, and maybe he's not at the Mets top of the priority list. For some other smaller market teams, Jesse Winker could be at the top of their priority list. Additionally, Scott Boras telling teams that Pete's prepared to leave New York. I don't know why, it just doesn't seem so far-fetched to me.
Now, is that, just to clarify, saying leave the New York Mets or leave New York the state?
It just said leave New York.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
you know.
I'm just curious. Like, does that mean there's other places that he'd be willing to go? Because for some reason in my mind, and I'm going to be honest with you guys, you wouldn't necessarily know this because the people here don't listen to our Syracuse podcast, but I've been on sort of a heater lately with some of my predictions. If any of you guys watch football, Syracuse football just upset number 6 Miami in the Dome, and my prediction was that Syracuse would win 42-38, and that's exactly what happened.
Nailed it.
I think that, like, Pete Alonso, to me, I was like, Yankees. Just felt like a
I agree. And
handshake
I agree with
right
that
from the
take,
start.
wholeheartedly, yeah.
And that's not egregious. I
Yeah.
think a lot of people were thinking that. But
love
I'd be
the word
curious.
egregious.
What'd you say?
I said I love the word egregious.
Ashley has a really good vocabulary. If you guys don't know that already, you will know it soon.
I'm going to whip out
but
some
even
words
that
you...
I said she has a great vocabulary. She's like, let me one up you. Vernacular. Bang. No, it's great. It's just a great word.
Agree.
It's a great word. Okay. Anything else as far as the rumor stove that you would like to talk about?
The 7-line army, allegedly, this came out today, also says there are rumors the Mets will finally retire David Wright's number 5 next season. The ceremony would be July 19th. Don't know how they got that date. Don't know where they saw that date. Has not been announced by the team. The July 19th thing, I think the 7-line was excited about because there is a 7-line army outing on that day at Citi Field. I think it's about time the Mets retire David Wright's number. Everybody knows how I feel about, I was raised on David Wright. That's why I'm a Mets fan. So I'm honestly surprised it's taken them this long. Like, he's been retired for a little chunk of change here.
No, I agree. And I would totally understand it if Mets fans were saying that they wanted that sooner. We all knew it was coming.
Put it in the rafters.
Yeah, I understand that, and I agree. One thing I do want to say, just to say it once, obviously, normally if we're in the regular season or whatever it is, we're not going to talk about rumors. We're only doing it right now because it gives us things to talk about.
Hot stove.
But if
Warm
that's
stove.
something that you don't like and you prefer for us to just stick to the confirmed things, let us know in the comments, and like everything else that you guys have said, we will take that into consideration. If you do like it and you want to hear our opinions on those kinds of things, then that's totally fine too. But I'm curious in your guys' feedback about that.
We love a good little speculation.
We love
speculate.
Like the tea.
Right.
We're just sipping the tea right here. 7 p.m. on Monday. Okay, moving over to the Dodgers. We didn't get to talk about this last week, so we know this is some of this stuff is a little bit older news, but we come here and we talk to you guys on Monday nights, sometimes Tuesday morning. So this is when we got to do it. The Dodgers signed Snell and Edman. We'll start with Snell. Self-reported signing. Nice to see in a crazy journalistic world.
I mean,
am I right?
Self-report.
Like, cool. He signed with the Dodgers last Tuesday, posted a picture on Instagram of himself in a Dodgers uniform. Also, props to whoever made that graphic.
They knew. Somebody else knew, because I know Blake Snell didn't make that graphic himself.
I know. And honestly, I will say, in the graphic world, I don't know why, but that's just something that really impresses me. Like, how do you get that jersey on a different player and it looks like they were wearing the jersey? Like, it looks so real. It's crazy.
The photoshopping these days, I mean, it's really something.
Unbelievable.
He beat Jeff
Unbelievable
Passan.
talent.
Snell beat Jeff Passan. Nobody beats Jeff Passan.
Nobody beats Jeff Passan. Nobody puts Jeff Passan in the corner. All right. Snell was sidelined by injuries in the first half of the 2024 season with the Giants, but recovered with a minuscule 1.23 ERA over his final 14 starts, which was a great springboard into free agency for the left-hander. Yes, Passan confirmed. This is 5 years, $182 million. That's a pretty good deal.
Yes, I think the Dodgers certainly have this is like the highest caliber signing that's happened so far, right? The Dodgers are just out here. They're winning the World Series and they're signing Blake Snell in the span of like a month, barely a month. 5 years, $182 million. I mean, I think that's reasonable. That's $36.4 million a year. Actually, slightly higher than what Boris got for Garrett Cole, which was just $36 million a year. Snell reportedly, casual chunk of change. Snell reportedly chose the Dodgers over the Red Sox. But here's where things get interesting. I need a beat on this Dodger deferment debacle, okay? The Dodgers and these deferments. So $65 million of the 182 are deferred. That's $13 million deferred over 5 years. He also got a $52 million signing bonus. So the Dodgers are finding, imagine him just getting handed $52 million on one day. Like, that's a lot to handle. Does that come in the form of a check? Is it one of those big checks? Is it just a wire transfer to his account? Is it a gigantic
big briefcase?
Wow. Anyway, here's your $52 million. The Dodgers are finding really creative ways, I think, to shape these big deals, and that's a testament to their organization and their GM and all that and whatever.
And the players. The players are literally saying, no problem, I'll get that money later. Right. That's a big deal.
Well, Ohtani's was egregious, as you might say. Like, Ohtani's has a lot of money later on.
You want to talk about a team player?
That is a team player. I mean, even Snell's, I think that's smart, right? He's going to be done with this deal, pretty much, you'd think, retired from baseball at that point, and he's still getting $13 million for the next 5 years. You can sign me up for that.
And I'm just going to say, everybody relax. Like, I understand that Ohtani also has endorsements. Like, it's not like that's the only money he's making. Like, I understand that he has enough money to survive.
Ohtani's not house poor.
And then some. But that's still really impressive that he would leave that much money on the table and essentially say, yeah, I'll just take that in retirement and beyond. That's cool to do. Not everybody would do it.
Listen, I respect it from the players. I respect it from the organization, getting creative ways to get these deals done. But I have some thoughts in the broader scope of baseball. All right, with this Snell signing, the Dodgers are now approaching $1 billion with a B, billion with a B, on the books deferred, including Ohtani's contract. I think right now we are in like the wild, wild west of these deferments. It actually, to me, is very similar to NIL in college sports, right? We're in the wild west of NIL right now. We're going to look back in 10 years and be like, what was going on then? There were no rules. There's going to be some stuff put into place. I would say that fairly certainly. I think that about deferments with these contracts in Major League Baseball, because while it's great for the team and it's great for the organization, and it's certainly great for the Dodgers who have figured out how to do it, well, what if you're one of these smaller market teams that really can't do that with confidence? So the Dodgers are getting all these guys. It's like a credit card. The Dodgers are buying these guys on a credit card. A little. I know they're paying a lot of the money.
No, I'm thinking like, listen, y'all. The only thought I've had in my head this whole time is like, what happens when it's time to pay up?
And what happens if it's not the GM that the Dodgers have right now, which, I mean, he's doing a great job and they just won the World Series, so I'm sure he has high job security. But come 10 years, when we're paying all these deferments, if another GM has to figure out this guy's mess,
are the Dodgers going to go into foreclosure?
Are the Dodgers going to foreclose? I don't know.
Like, honestly,
bankruptcy.
No, that would make me feel quite fearful. I am not big into the have fun and party now, pay the price later. No freaking thanks. That's why I put stuff on my debit card, bro.
Correct.
Because all of a sudden it starts to feel like fake money. Mm-hmm. It's like no big deal.
This is starting to feel like fake money with these deferments a little bit. And I know that they're paying a large majority of it up front. It's like, I would say, a smaller chunk deferred. Not really in Ohtani's case, but at least in Snell's case. It just feels a little dangerous to me. It feels like a dangerous way to run your organization, if I'm being completely honest. Because what if you don't have that $1 billion in 10 years to pay up? What if they're the Dodgers, so they will. But it's just a little bit of risky business. What if in 10 years, all right, so then you can't address those needs in 10 years because you're paying Shohei Ohtani from 10 years ago.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
It's giving Bobby Bonilla.
I was just thinking about him because, like, like, what happens if the money runs out? And it also makes me think for all the other fans who aren't Dodgers fans, like, don't worry, because at some point the Dodgers need to shell out a load of money,
right? And
the scales will even out.
You would think.
You would think, but then
Probably
again, listen, who knows? There is definitely some, and this is a larger discussion.
It is,
but it is interesting to think about. There is a whole lot of unfairness in general in that idea of some owners just have more money and big bucks to spend. Same thing with NIL.
Yeah.
You're just going to see some players switching over because a school like Michigan wanted to pay them a ton of money.
Totally.
Like, is that fair? And does that, not to sound like an old fart, but like, does that mess up the college sphere? Does that mess up the game of baseball in a way? Like, honestly, if I wasn't on a team like Mets, would I feel really bummed out and annoyed and pissed off at all the teams that have a lot of money? Probably.
I think some of this is soothed for us because we got Steve Cohen as our owner, and we, at the end of the day, root for a team that plays in the top market in the country. Like, if I was if I was a Minnesota Twins fan, might not be loving this.
I actually might hate it.
God, I forgot the Minnesota Twins existed. I don't know where that came from.
That was a really good example. I was wondering who we were going to pull out of the hat. Minnesota Twins was perfect for that example.
Anyways, not saying the Dodgers are broke. I'm sure the Dodgers will figure it out. It just is an interesting discussion. When are we going to get some rules and regulations on these deferments? Because I feel like it's coming down the pipeline.
Yeah. Yep.
Anyways.
And it should. I feel like it should come down the pipeline.
I feel like that's only fair, right? Same thing with NIL. Need a little bit more even playing field.
You need some rules to play the game.
Sure.
Okay. Did we do Tommy Edman yet, or we didn't even do that?
We did not, but let's just take one beat on this Dodgers projected rotation because I put this in here because it is egregious. Word of the day. Blake Snell would obviously be headlining it, right? So he went 5-3, had a 3.12 ERA in 20 games started last season. Tyler Glasnow, who we saw was also pretty good last season. Shohei Ohtani will be coming back after not pitching last season due to getting that surgery. And Yoshinobu Yamamoto. I mean, this is a front four of this rotation that is terrifying, devastating. Now, this is
headliner.
A headliner.
A show I'd pay for.
A show I would pay for. And that doesn't even begin to mention that they're also the front runner for Roki Sasaki, who hasn't made a decision yet.
No, I know.
I mean, the Dodgers, you have to give credit where credit is due. They saw that they had a weak spot. They still won the World Series, but I guess they identified that the weak spot, which we saw in the NLCS and the World Series, was the starting rotation, I guess, even though they still won the whole thing. And they really set out to fix it, right away. It's December 1st.
No, swiftly. If only the problems in this building could be fixed that quickly.
We fight on.
But yes, no, I totally agree. Scary, very exciting if you're a Dodgers fan.
Yeah.
Also, the Dodgers signed utility man Tommy Edman. They are in agreement on a 5-year, $74 million contract extension. That was according to ESPN. The deal runs from 2025 to 29 and includes a 6th-year club option. Additionally, there's money deferred, of course. Additionally, I also would like to hear from Dodgers fans because obviously I'm not a Dodgers fan, but I sort of got the feeling like he was a fan favorite. Like this was a guy people really rooted for.
I did too.
And loved.
Yeah, I think that was a guy the Dodgers fans are happy to see back. The Dodgers here's my take on this, and this leads into our next topic. First of all, they're buying a lot on their credit card. We said that. Second of all, the Dodgers are reaping the benefits right now of the good old luxury of the New York Mets and the New York Yankees and the Boston Red Sox, who are a major player for Blake Snell, have one focus right now, and his name's Juan Soto. And so the Dodgers, because they've inevitably decided that they're not in on Juan Soto, are kind of reaping the benefits of, all right, well, nobody's looking at any of these other guys. The Dodgers are conducting their business over there because everybody's focused on Soto over here.
Actually, a really good point. Like, there's so much attention on that. Sometimes almost too much, I feel.
Yeah.
That it detracts from all of these other great players and great things that are going on. So if you were kind of on that boat of, I'm going to sneak around this and do what I need to do, kudos to you.
I'm ready for the Soto sweepstakes to be over. I'm not gonna lie.
100% same.
Let's wrap it up. Like we had the excitement. The stove was hot. Now the stove's kind of cooling off a little bit. Somebody sign him. Let's get it done. I mean, bad year to be a free agent not named Juan Soto. To our point, like bad year to be Pete Alonso. You'd be the headliner in another year, but it just so happened you were on the Juan Soto year.
I know. I 100% agree. And I also just feel like, listen, man. You had your moment. He even came out with, I forget what it is that's sponsoring him, but he even had his little video. Celsius.
Yeah.
Where he's like, I've made my decision. Funny, great marketing strategy. But like, if I hear one more rumor X, Y, Z. I got to hear straight from the source, man.
I need the Jeff Passan tweet, breaking. Juan Soto is going to hit like crack.
Oh.
Sorry.
Hold on. Literally, Ashley. Okay. Let's take a minute. Whoa. It's going to send this girl to rehab. Okay.
I am going to be sent to rehab if the Boston Red Sox sign Juan Soto. Let me just tell you things I cannot handle.
That. Okay, we're going to just get into it. Obviously, we're going to do it every single week. Sorry if you hate it. Skip it. We'll put a little timeline so you know when it's coming. But we have to talk about Juan Soto again because it's coming soon. We can feel that it's coming soon.
Yeah.
But basically, the latest and the greatest in this is that MLB Network reported today that the Mets and the Red Sox are the favorite to sign Soto. Surprising or no?
I really am not surprised. The Red Sox just haven't operated like the big market team that they were operating as, in years prior. And I'd say maybe 5 to 7 years. The Red Sox have not had that caliber of competitiveness. But they're trying to be back. I mean, they wanted Snell. Now they want Soto. I don't think the Red Sox have a bad argument. I think Boston's a great sports town. And I think the Red Sox have money to spend. But I just think it's can you convince a guy the caliber of Juan Soto, hey, you shouldn't go to the now perennial World Series favorites, Mets, Yankees, or Dodgers. You should come with us in Boston.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Okay, you also put here, Harold Reynolds, noted MLB analyst, had 3 points today, which this is an interesting discussion points. Number one, we'll just go through it one by one. There's no better fit for him than New York, he said.
Yes.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, he said, locationally, right, there's no better fit for Juan Soto than New York City, whether that's the Mets or the Yankees. He's the biggest star in baseball, put him on the biggest stage. We saw that as a Yankee last year. Reynolds said, he looked like a Yankee forever. He did. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to, take that with, he looked like he belonged in New York City.
Okay, you give the second point.
Okay, number 2 was the ballpark. Reynolds was saying that Fenway really fits Juan Soto really well, right? They could move him over to left field, play left field with the Green Monster. He could play out there forever. That would dispel the, Juan Soto, might become a DH one day.
Yep.
You could put him in left field. He could be Manny Ramirez 2.0. Throw him out there. He doesn't have to do a whole lot with that monster.
Preach. Okay, 3, money. The Mets are the money. Steve Cohen, obviously, going to do whatever it takes, going to give the biggest offer. And I know that you put somewhere on here that Juan Soto is not interested in any money being deferred.
Not interested in deferments.
That's pertinent.
Yeah, that is pertinent. Yeah, maybe that's why the Dodgers couldn't whip out their credit card. Anyway, another point.
Honestly, a good point, though. Sincerely.
Right? Yeah, I don't think the Dodgers wanted him anyway, but just saying. Another point that Reynolds made on MLB Network today, which is Monday, is that, Juan Soto just played in the World Series. So if we're weighing the Mets and the Red Sox, of course, we're Mets fans. We're going to say, we're going to talk about all the positives of the Mets. But it is true. Is he confident that the Red Sox in the near future have a caliber of a team around him to offer him a perennial chance to make deep runs in the playoffs and to go to the World Series? Because right now, I would say the answer to that is no. I'm sure the Red Sox are trying to convince him otherwise, but it's interesting.
It is. Anything else that you want to mention on Juan Soto, on any of the sweepstakes, any of it?
The last point was there was another reporter, Randy Miller of NewJersey.com, that reiterated the Red Sox and the Mets thing, which now when I hear it from 2 sources, I kind of feel like, that's more relevant, that it really might come down to the Mets and the Red Sox. He said, I'm hearing the Yankees will top out in the $550 million range. I believe Soto has at least 2 and maybe 3 offers already over $600 million. I'm hearing the Yankees fear the Red Sox more than anyone. I think the Mets are in play, and I think the Red Sox are in play, and I don't think he's going to the Yankees. And then he will not take a Yankee discount, and he thinks the Yankees are going to finish 4th in the sweepstakes that also, of course, included the Toronto Blue Jays. I'm not saying anything he's saying is not true. I totally believe him, but the Yankees topping out at $550. I feel like everybody knew this was almost like a 600 plus to get in the door. You know what I mean? Like 600 million down payment
to get your ticket.
Right, to get your ticket.
I am like 550 feels like insulting.
550 feels like, yeah, we really knew we had no shots, so that's what we're offering up.
550, miss me on that.
550 million, man, I not interested in that.
Well, you know what? We'll see. My money is still on the Mets, not because I'm a Mets fan, because I truly think that they are going to end up being the number 1 option. And I'll tell you what, just to end on it, I don't know if it's worth it to bring it up or not, but there is one hate comment, a wicked hate comment that we got this week from someone on the Mets podcast.
Sure.
You sent it to me. The guy who called us, I feel like I had to read it. It was really funny.
Oh, it's
but
so
he
funny.
is going to be sorry.
Here I come.
If Juan Soto signs to the Mets. Me and Ashley have a rule. We don't engage with haters, and we don't engage with them one-on-one.
Right.
That's just not something we do. But we will definitely talk about it, especially if it was hysterical. And this really was actually hilarious.
It has been quite the week of hate comments, might I put out there at the New York Post. This had nothing to do with the New York Post.
Y'all sensing something went on?
We have a little bit of an enemy right now. Not going to name his name, but a fine man on Twitter commented under one of our posts and old friend commented, y'all should change the name of the podcast to Two Dumb Bitches Just Making Shit Up. I can't wait until Soto signs with the Yankees and you Mets losers cry and bitch. Two dumb bitches just making shit up. You heard it here first.
Should we change our name?
No. But it is fun. I mean, honestly, like, I'll give him that snark that I can laugh at.
Yeah,
that's funny.
But funny, but hysterical when we use it in the graphic and use it in the Instagram story and every other social media platform if he's wrong.
You're right. We make it up. We make it up. We have no facts behind anything.
No basis. It's all fiction. Well, anyway, listen, thank you guys so much for joining us. Have never said this before, but for some reason I feel like I want to say it now. If you guys are, for any reason, just interested in not only Syracuse sports, but just hearing us yap about other topics, we do actually have another podcast that we do through the station, and it's called the Orange Zone Podcast. So if you're on YouTube, you want to hear a little bit more about college football, that's something that we do as well. Check it out. If not, we will see you back here for the Why Am I a Mets Fan podcast next week or sooner if something exciting or crazy happens. Thanks for joining us.